children, welcome to our numerals lesson today. This lesson was produced by Rwanda Education Board with support from UNICEF. My name is Teacher John. This lesson is from Unit 6, Primary 4 Mathematics. This lesson is from Unit 6, Primary 4 Mathematics. Dear adults, we still appreciate your support during these radio learning lessons. And dear children, as usual, you have to be with your notebook and a pen. For those who don't have them yet, you have few seconds to pick them. Welcome back, dear children. Now, let us review what we learned in the previous numerals lesson. Dear children, what did we learn in our previous numerals lesson? Very good. In our previous numerals lesson, we learned about multiplication of integers. Very good. In our previous numerals lesson, we learned about multiplication of integers without using a number line. We learned that multiplication of integers follows the following rules. We learned that multiplication of integers follows the following rules. Rule number 1. A positive integer times a positive integer, the product is positive. A positive integer times a positive integer, the product is positive. Rule number 2 was a negative integer times a positive integer, the product is a negative integer. And rule number 3, the last one, was a negative integer times a negative integer, the product is a positive integer. Dear friends, let us check the answers for our homework from the previous numerals lesson. Multiplying negative 3 times negative 7, we get positive 21. Multiplying negative 3 times negative 7, we get positive 21. And multiplying positive 4 times negative 5, we get negative 20. Positive 4 times negative 5, we get negative 20. And multiplying positive 8 times positive 3, we get positive 24. In today's lesson, friends, we will learn about introduction to length measurements. I repeat, in today's lesson, we will learn an interesting topic about length measurements. Repeat after me, length measurements. But first, let us have a break. We'll be back shortly.
Come along and play with us.
Welcome back, dear children. Like I said before the break, in today's lesson, we will learn about introduction to length measurements. Dear friends, what is length? Have you heard of a word length? L-E-N-G-T-H. Length measurements. Dear friends, you have few seconds to think about it. Very good. Length is the distance between 2 points. If you marked 2 points, any distance between them is length. Length could be between you and the next window. Length could be the distance between you and the next relative. Length could be the distance between you and the nearby window. So length is the distance between 2 points. Dear friends, there are many instruments used for measuring length. These types of instruments are used depending on the size of the length to be measured. For example, friends, the instrument to measure length between you and the next window could be different from the instrument we would use to measure the length or the diameter of a pin, a small pin. And therefore, instruments that measure length are selected according to the size of the length to be measured. Friends, what are some of the instruments do you use to measure length at home or at school? You have few seconds to list some. Very good. Well done, dear children, for those who have listed some. Some of the instruments we use to measure length include 1. A ruler. You have seen a ruler before, right? Haven't you? I know you have. A ruler is used to measure short distances like length of a line in a book, length of a table, length of a classroom, height of a door, length of a rope, all those short distances. You have seen a ruler, right? And you have used it to measure one of those distances, haven't you? If you haven't, you have to get a ruler and try out measuring some distances. The second instrument, friends, is a tape measure. Has anyone seen a tape measure? Have you seen a tape measure with some of the builders? People who build houses. Do you have a tape measure at your homes? Well, a tape measure is used for measuring longer distances, like length of a field, height of a person, length of a cloth, depth of a pit, and so many other things. Another instrument is a yardstick. Have you seen a yardstick before, friends? I know some of you have not yet seen it. A yardstick, the spelling is Y-A-R-D-S-T-I-C-K. Yardstick. It is a flat wooden board with markings at regular intervals. It's a board made out of wood with markings at regular intervals. It is used for measuring small length. It is used for measuring small length. And lastly, another very important instrument to measure length is a micrometer screw gauge. I know some of you, it's your first time to hear it. It's called a micrometer screw gauge. The spelling is M-I-C-R-O-M-E-T-E-R space, that's micrometer, screw S-C-R-E-W, then gauge is G-A-U-G-E, micrometer screw gauge. It is used for measuring small distances such as a diameter of a pin, thickness of a paper. It is used to measure very small distances. And these distances include even the diameter of a pin and also the thickness of a piece of paper. Let us have a break. We'll be back shortly.
Come along and play with us.
Welcome back, dear children. Before the break, we saw different instruments that we use to measure length. And we saw that they depend on the size of the length to be measured. We saw that they are selected according to the size of the length to be measured. And now, friends, I want us to talk about the units of length. The units of length involve both standard and non-standard units. The units of length involve both standard and non-standard units. Standard units are those that are widely accepted. They are accepted wherever scientifically. And non-standard units are those that are not accepted scientifically, but we often use them at our homes and in different places. Units of length involve standard and non-standard units. Standard units are those that are scientifically accepted, and non-standard units are scientifically not accepted, though they are being used by different individuals and in different areas. What are some of the non-standard units of length measurements, friends? Can you list some of the non-standard units of length measurements that you have used before? Very good. Some of the non-standard units of length measurements include a pace. A pace, I know sometimes you have used a pace. You have tried to measure distances using strides. Strides is the distance between your legs or between your feet when you take a step. When you stretch your foot forward, the distance between your right foot and your left foot can be taken as a pace or a stride. Another non-standard unit of length measurement is a foot span. Some of you have measured distances using your feet, and that is a foot span. Some of you have measured length using arms, and we call that arm span. I've seen you measure the length of a cloth using an arm span when you use arms to measure the length of a cloth. And lastly, some people use a hand span. Some of you have used hands to determine the length between 2 points. Some of you use your hands where you stretch your fingers to determine the distance between 2 points. Now, friends, can you stand up and estimate the length of the nearest window using a hand span? I told you what a hand span is. That's when you estimate the distance between 2 points or the length using your hand. Some of you use the thumb and the middle finger to determine the length. That is a hand span. Can you stand up and estimate the length of the nearest window using a hand span? Well done, friends. You can tell it to your peers or adults with you. For example, my nearest window has 7 hand spans. Dear friends, what you have just used to measure the length of your window is not a standard unit of length. That's because if a different person measured the same window, the number of hand spans would change. This is because our fingers have different length. Therefore, it's a non-standard unit. It's not scientifically accepted. Dear children, there are also standard units of length. Dear children, there are also standard units of length. The standard unit of measuring length is a meter. The standard unit of measuring length is a meter. It is denoted by letter M. The other units of length include kilometer, hectometer, decameter, decimeter, centimeter, and millimeter. The other units of length include kilometer, hectometer, decameter, decimeter, centimeter, and millimeter. All those are other units that come from the standard unit of length, which is a meter. For example, 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. 1 hectometer equals 100 meters. 1 decameter equals 10 meters. And 1 decimeter equals 0.1 meters, which is a tenth of a meter. And 1 centimeter equals 100th of a meter, which is 0.01 meters. And 1 millimeter equals 0.001 meters. Now, let us have a short break. We will come back with a short exercise.
Come along and play with us.
Welcome back, dear children. Can you attempt the following questions to make you rethink about the key concepts of what we have learned so far? What is the standard unit of length? Very good. The standard unit of length is a meter. Activity 2. How many meters make a kilometer? Very good. There are 1,000 meters that make a kilometer. And 3. Which instrument would you prefer to use the measure of the diameter of a pin? Which instrument would you prefer to use to measure the diameter of a pin? Give a reason for your answer. Very good. It is a micrometer screw gauge. It is a micrometer screw gauge because it is the most accurate in measuring very small distances. Because it is the most accurate in measuring very small distances. Well done, friends. Before we end our lesson, let us review what we have learned today. In today's lesson, we have learned about the introduction to length measurements. We have learned about the introduction to length measurements. We have learned about instruments used to measure length like ruler, tape measure, yardstick, and a micrometer screw gauge. We have also learned the non-standard and standard units of length. The non-standard units include a pace, foot span, arm span, and a hand span. We have also learned that the standard unit of length is a meter, with other units as kilometer, hectometer, decameter, decimeter, centimeter, and millimeter. For your homework, dear friends, measure the length of your living room using both the following non-standard units: a hand span, foot span, and a pace. Also measure the length using a meter rule. You will measure the length of your living room using the following non-standard units, which include a hand span, a foot span, and a pace. And also measure the length using a meter rule. And that's the standard way of measuring length. That is it for today. Thank you for participating. Remember to join us for our next numerous lesson. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, 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 teacher. Goodbye, children. See you next time. Goodbye, 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 teacher. Goodbye, children.